Let's get started. Good evening, everyone. My name is Brendan Hogan, Chair, calling this June meeting of the Public Works Commission to order at 6:31. Thank you all for coming. First item on the agenda is the agenda itself.
Motion to approve the agenda?
All right, so we have a motion from Commissioner Barr. Thank you from that.
I'll second the motion.
We have a second from Vice Chair O'Neill Vivanco. Thank you for that. Is there any discussion around that motion? We are 7 strong in the room. Go to a voice vote. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Myself. Any opposed? Our agenda has passed unanimously. Thank you. Public forum. See any takers in the room? We check on the phone, see if anyone's interested in speaking.
There's no one online at this time.
Moving forward, all right. Consent agenda, item 4 on our agenda. We have a few things. Minutes from May meeting, July 3rd, parking rates, Bank Street, temporary construction parking, North Union, time limited, 101 College Street, vehicle loading, and a Briggs Street, no parking zone.
And the draft minutes are the amended ones?
The draft minutes are those as amended,
Yeah.
shared earlier this
Okay.
afternoon and in front of us at the moment.
So I'll make a motion to accept the consent agenda with the new proposed draft minutes.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
A second from Commissioner Montano, thank you. Is there any discussion around it?
I had a
Yes.
quick question for staff on 4E, the 101 College Street Vehicle Loading Zone area. I was just curious, in your conversation with the residents in that particular building, it's going from 15 minutes to a 30-minute vehicle loading zone, and they cited SSTA or easy access to SSTA as one of the reasons for wanting this 30-minute space. And I wonder if by switching it to sort of legalizing a 30-minute window for somebody to sit there, that could inadvertently have, a car that isn't really using that space for that particular building, and then the SSTA bus wouldn't be able to actually load and unload passengers in that spot. And I was just curious if any conversation came up around using like the transit. I know for like South Winooski, the commission approved something I think last year in front of the Howard Center. So I was just curious if there was any discussion around a similar ordinance for that.
Thank you for the question. Yes, had several conversations with the residents and the folks that manage the building. Residents in the building and folks that made the initial request were adamant, and I explained it's pretty much functionally the same, but as you just pointed out, now we put a 30-minute, time limited space in there. They're adamant that they want it to be a vehicle loading space. So.
Okay.
I mean, the beauty of this is if it is a problem,
Yep.
then we can always adjust.
Yeah. I just wanted to make sure that was at least brought up with residents there, that they might end up
Definitely
getting
was.
something that they didn't want.
It was explained.
Okay. That's all. Thank you.
All right,
Can I also ask a quick question for staff?
sure.
On item D, the North Union Street limited parking, time limited parking. I'm just wondering why the decision was 3 spaces instead of like maybe 2. We got one public feedback and it was from a resident. So wondering maybe like what sort of interaction there was with the businesses that are right on that corner. It's a challenging corridor, as we know, balancing the needs of residents and businesses there. So just looking for a little context around that.
Right, thanks for the question. I think we landed on 3. It just seemed to make sense given the context of the space that's there between the end of Taco Gordo and this. It seemed to be the logical thing to do. Unfortunately, in requests like these, folks that do support things like this, they're not necessarily the ones that are going to reach out and be like, "Oh yes, please, we need to do this."
Yeah.
Usually, just hear from folks that don't necessarily want it to happen. We have several anecdotal conversations with businesses on the street and city councilors that made the initial suggestion that this is the direction that we should take. And much like the time-limited space on College Street, if we do find that we need to make adjustments, we can always do that.
you.
All right. We have a motion that's been seconded. Any other discussion? Commissioner Overby.
I just have one question. What are you going to, how's the method be for the 15 minutes on Bank Street? Are you going to put those yellow meters in there, or, you know, that's obviously a kiosk thing, so what's the method that's going to be used to make that clear that that's what it is?
For the temporary?
The two 15-minute spots that are sort of near where people might be using the ATM and, you know, running to get food or something.
We would have the contractor or potentially our own crews put up 15-minute signs if they're needed.
So that's not a 15-minute thing for the general public to use?
It is.
Okay,
It would
so
be
it's
just
not-
if we get feedback from businesses that their customers are having hard time finding parking, we could, or I guess those are metered spaces. It would be the yellow meters.
They were, but there's no meters in that section at all, because it was all taken away when it was all turned over to the construction project. So you're gonna put yellow meters in there so people know it's a 15-minute thing? Just put those things back in there with the quarters on them?
Yeah.
Okay, I was just curious, because it's all real ambiguous on that whole stretch of Bank Street. It's sort of free-for-all
Yeah.
for now, so, great, thanks.
All right. Any other discussion on this motion? Okay. Go to a vote then. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye for myself. Any opposed? All right, the consent agenda passes unanimously. Thank you. Moving forward to item 5, parking violation ordinance change.
Thanks, team. So Mr. Paget is unexpectedly out today, so you get me for the next 3 agenda items.
All right.
Thanks for your understanding as I walk through these items. So the first item is the meter and time-limited parking fine increase. And what you see before you in the packet is a proposal to increase the fines for meter violations and time-limited parking violations from $15 to $20. Division Director Jeff Paget stated well, I think, in the second page, the description of why we're proposing this. In a way, our goal is to move towards as few fines as possible, but we want to set up a terrain where it's easy to do the right thing. And right now, there are day-long parkers who pay more to pay legitimately at the $1.50 an hour meters than a violation of a $15 ticket. And we think that there's a good message in that doing the right thing should be the cheaper direction. In addition, balancing this year's FY24 budget for the general fund, violations do go to the general fund, has been strained this year, and this action will also assist the city in balancing its budget. The last increase was 2013. Inflation since 2013 has been around 30%, which is approximately the increase from $15 to $20, excuse me. In other communities we've researched, you'll see at the bottom, $20 is still on the low end of the spectrum. Portland, Maine has 20, but UVM has 25, Rutland has 30, Portsmouth, New Hampshire, 35. Still, you know, our goal here is to not be overly punitive and make the parking downtown something affordable to all people. So we're proposing 20. Happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you for that. Start to my left here. Commissioner Damiani.
I think my only question was around timing, implementation of when this would actually go into effect. I might have missed it in the memo, but.
We might not have been explicit. Yes, that is a good point. So once the commission approves it, there is a 21-day appeal period. So we would not catch the July 1 start of the fiscal year, but sometime mid-July, we would be able to implement the revised fee structure.
Okay. That's all, thank you.
Commissioner Montana?
I guess I just have one quick question. Roughly how many tickets are charged at this $15 to $20 rate for meter violations relative to the total?
Right, it is the predominant ticket that we issue. Is it around 2,000?
I think it's 65% of all tickets, 20,000.
Yes, thank you. You're pulling it from the memo that I did not pick up on. So, yes, it is the predominant ticket, and but that said, interestingly, other tickets are much more expensive. So, while it's 65% of the number of tickets, I'm not sure what it equates to in total revenue. Something much less than 65%.
All right.
30%. Thank you, Rob.
Great. Thank you.
Commissioner Overby.
I think it's fine that we're changing the rate to the other rate. And also, I know we've always talked about whether the fines are intended to encourage behavior, which is what you just referenced, instead of being punitive and revenue generating. So I'm fine with this proposal.
Okay, fine with the fines.
All right, fine with the fines. Vice Chair O'Neill-Ravanco.
Yeah, I have very few comments other than I appreciate the information on inflation, that it wasn't this capricious move from 15 to 20, that we are tracking with inflation and with sort of our kind of peer communities, so that it isn't, we do need to kind of keep up with that bit, and I think it's really important. The education piece, I think, is key, also making sure that if there are any frequent flyers on the parking ticket world, that they are aware that this will be going into effect. So for sort of that public relations, looking at Mr. Goulding at that public relations campaign, again, to let folks who aren't watching this know that this is tracking with inflation, that we are not being predatory.
Right.
I think it's all good. Thanks.
All right, Commissioner Barr.
Thank you. So I like that we're using data, that we continue to use data, and that we're not at the high end of virtually anyone for increasing this. I am curious, though, kind of touching on how are we going to educate the public? And I've mentioned this before. Do we actually write things on the ticket envelopes, what fines are, those kind of things, or do we? It'll obviously be issued on the piece of paper that goes in the envelope, but just so they know that it's an increase, so they don't.
Yeah, I believe all tickets now reference the ordinance number and the specific violation that folks are subject to. If I recall, that's a relatively recent change across all the ordinances that are enforced by parking services. So.
Yeah.
Correct.
I should know that, but I haven't gotten a ticket, so that's probably a good thing. Thank you. That's all.
All right. Commissioner Fox.
Yeah, I don't have very many comments on this either. I think it's fine. I will echo my fellow commissioners in the sort of education piece around this change. I think, it's a compelling statement to say, pay the meter rather than pay the ticket, right? Like, it'll save you money, that sort of thing. I didn't articulate that message very well, but I think there's a good messaging in there in terms of, like, the customer interface. Yeah, that's all.
Great.
All right, thank you. I guess the only thing I'll add is let's remember this if we're revisiting other types of fees in the future to make sure things sort of scale and sync.
Right.
Again, I understand that there's maybe some study of, I think maybe focused on the downtown or the Main Street, Great Streets vicinity about what the right price is, and I think there was,
Right.
if I remember correctly, there's a decision to like hold on changing pricing for
Yeah.
now. If we come back to it, let's.
Yes. There was a request for more work and study, and we're doing that work, and we'll hopefully bring back a more comprehensive recommendation for you.
Cool, thank you. All right. Nothing further on this pass through the commission here. Mr. Goulding, could you check on the phones for us? Is there anyone interested in speaking at public comment on this one?
No one is online.
All right. With that, I'll bring it back to the commission. I would welcome a motion if anyone has one. Alderman Tanu.
I move to adopt the attached update in the Burlington Code of Ordinance to raise meter and time limited violations from $15 to $20.
Thank you.
All right.
I'll second that motion.
All right, second from Commissioner Fox. Thank you for that. Is there any discussion around that motion?
The one thing I noticed is that you're also removing the convenience fee, which is like the credit card fee of some sort.
Yeah, good
Uh,
eyes.
Which is, nice.
Right.
So that was another element of this proposal.
Yes, people are, as I like to say, not usually at their best when they're paying a parking ticket, and adding a convenience fee on top of that seems like it's only adding to the frustration. So baking it into the ticket fee felt like a easier one-stop shop.
And there's still the whoops, right?
Yes.
So,
Does that mean that the city is actually paying the fee for the credit card usage off of that? So you, in effect, you're not really getting $20, you're getting $20 minus the convenience fee.
The city certainly still is paying for the credit card processing, but the $2.75 fee was from the previous vendor that we were using.
Okay.
And we have a newer vendor. We're not paying as much of a fee, so it's not as much of a hit to the city.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion around this item? All right, let's go to a vote then. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Myself, any opposed? All right, motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you. All
Parking
right.
Services has.
Yeah,
get
you've
it
got
done.
me. You've got me again.
All right.
Thank you.
Number 6.
So this item was one, the revenue bond authorization for garage capital work is one that we have been working behind the scenes. As folks are aware, we've been doing work on both the downtown garage and marketplace garage to keep them open and safe. The marketplace garage, nearing 50 years in age, has certainly been a challenging one to keep in good repair. You see in the memo, we've made approximately $750,000 worth of repairs to those garages. And when we started doing the work back in 2022, as you'll see on the second page of the memo, the clerk treasurer's office was understaffed. The plan was to pull some loan at that time coming out of COVID. As you have heard from us, the two funds, the parking facilities fund, which is garages and lots, and the traffic fund, which is on-street revenue, the meters, both of those funds are, the fund balance is exceedingly low in each fund, to the case that our parking facilities fund is needing to borrow not only for this, but for additional debt service that will be coming to you in subsequent months. So what we have done with the clerk treasurer's office, because they were low on staff, is they delayed the pulling of debt to be able to service this work. The general fund paid the $750,000 for this work, and now the parking facilities fund needs to reimburse the general fund for the upgrades to the garages. So this debt service will enable us to repay the general fund, and as you'll see, the terms here are that 2 years, no debt service payments while the fund replenishes and traffic comes back to downtown, and then we will pay it off in years 3, 4, and 5. So it's a fairly short note and 3.75% interest estimated. That's what the clerk treasurer's office has been quoted. We won't know until the loan documents are executed, but it will be in that range, so interest will be minimal. Happy to answer any questions. There's a resolution in the packet that was drafted by bond counsel. The bond counsel is suggesting that by their read of the charter, that the commission needs to, under the general control of the garages, needs to recommend approval of this resolution to the full city council. Happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you. start on the other side. Commissioner Fox.
So one question on this, and so we know that revenues are still in the process of recovering. And so have they started to pick back up, and sort of based on that existing data or projected revenues for that year 3, 4, and 5, are they expected to recover sort of in time for this, in this time frame, based on the data that we sort of have?
Yes, we, for FY '24, we've budgeted $3.4 million of revenue. Part of the strengthening revenue is that 2 hours free was removed from Marketplace Garage 2 or so years ago, but unfortunately COVID occurred right when we did that. So we lost the expected revenue bump from that activity, or that rate change. So we do expect that to help. We also, with City Place under construction, we'll have a lot more activity happening around the downtown garage, which during the construction phase may be more contractor parking. But then clearly once the people start moving into City Place, I am entirely confident that we will see a much greater utilization of the downtown garage, which is still hanging out around 40, 50, 60% occupancy.
Okay. That was the only question I had.
No crystal ball,
Yeah.
but we think this is a prudent step. But we will need to watch financials carefully, and I'm sure we'll be back to you to kind of give timely updates as part of our annual garage presentation in February.
Yeah. Obviously, there's tons of variability on it, but I think grasping at the data that we can sort of
Right.
project out is important. But yeah, that's it.
All right. Commissioner Barr.
Actually, I have no comments. I think everything was well put together in the proposal. So I'm supporting.
All right. Vice Chair O'Neill Vaca.
Do I dare say I have no comments? No, I think this looks great, and I think, but it's still even saying I have no comment, I have a comment. No, I think it looks great. I appreciate Commissioner Fox's comments and questions. Those were mine. And I think kind of tracking the revenue for the garages, not just to pay down this bond, but also in the anticipation of any other future maintenance issues will also be, hopefully we can hear from Jeff in February when we get our annual report. That looks good. Yeah.
You reminded me of one thing, if I may, Chair.
Please.
So the administration, to Commissioner Fox's comments, has asked us to bring a multi-year pro forma with our expected revenues year over year back to the Board of Finance in the next 3 to 6 months. We would certainly provide that same information to the city, to the commission. If it doesn't fall in February with your annual presentation, we'll bring it whenever it's ready. So it's certainly on our minds as well. In full transparency, the Parking Facilities Fund has had it's around $2.2 to $2.5 million of other debt that when the pandemic hit, we were unable to meet our debt coverage ratios for that debt. So that debt was assumed by the city's general fund because we could no longer meet the commitment of having a 1.25 debt coverage ratio, having a profitable enough business to keep the lender comfortable that we were going to be able to continue the payments. So we are going to be looking at financing that one as well. And I would assume that when we come back for that one, which is much larger than this, that we would be bringing you the pro forma at the same time. A little bit more financial rigor given the size of that borrowing so that you have greater comfort that we can take on that debt.
Great, thank you.
Thank you for that. Commissioner Overby.
I found it interesting that the method of financing this was out of the general fund for this capital repairs, and then follow up with debt. And it's really sort of the same thing that was that was done in the investment of Burlington Telecom. You know, the Burlington Telecom, the money was invested out of the general fund, and then there was an anticipation of a borrowing like this. And then obviously the 2008, 2009 financial crisis happened, so things went wacko. So I just find it ironic that this is exactly the same sort of scenario that we're having, you know, trying to keep things done, getting done, you know, that repairs had to happen, but the money gets moved from wherever it needs to get moved, and then, you know, you hope that that somebody's going to buy these bonds and feel like we're going to be able to pay them back off of our parking revenue. So you know, my first question was about how much interest it actually is going to add by not paying anything on the debt the first 2 years, and
Right.
I don't think there's any way around it. I think I understand your reasoning about not expecting $250,000 plus interest to be available the first year on this debt. So I can understand what's going on. I just had
Yeah.
to mention that you know, that was an interesting parallel in the way that the financing happens to get things done in Burlington. So, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Commissioner Matano.
No comments.
Commissioner Damiani.
I also have no comments as well.
All right. Yes, nothing further on my end. Can we check with the phone, see if anyone's interested in speaking, public comment on this item?
Nope, not at this time.
All right, thank you. With that, I'll bring it back to the commission for a vote.
I would make a motion to accept staff's recommendation for the $750,000 bond and recommending to the council to approve it.
Thank you for that motion, Commissioner Barr.
I'll second the motion. Oh, sorry, Matano.
Take it. She beat you. That's right.
Take the second, Vice Chair O'Neill Bovacco, thank you for that. Is there any other discussion around this motion? Right, let's go to a vote then. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye for myself, any opposed? All right, the motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Moving forward, item 7 on our agenda, the draft fiscal year '24 goals and objectives.
All right, you've got me again.
Welcome back.
Thank you. So each year, we've provided the commission an overview of leadership's goals and objectives for the public to understand what our priorities are and for the commission to evaluate my performance and the other appointed position in the department, which is the city engineer's performance. So this is very much a draft for FY24. Thought was that we could get your feedback here and that I bring back a updated version to your first meeting in FY24. Some years the commission's kind of voted to accept it, and other years you just have seen it as a staff document. I'm flexible however the commission wants to memorialize it, but definitely think it's helpful for you to understand where I and the other members of the leadership team, including Mr. Goulding here and city engineer Norm Baldwin, want to drive the ship in this coming year and get your feedback.
All right, thank you for that intro. Let's see, let's start in here. Commissioner Barr, comments, questions?
No, I mean, I think it's a great document. I'd like to call it a dynamic document because it's a living document that it ebbs and flows. But it's good to have these, I'll call them intermediate objectives to reach the ultimate success rate here in Burlington.
Yeah.
I mean, I read through it and I didn't see anything that really jumped out at me as being a challenge or not something that should be on here. So
Okay.
I'll just leave it at that for now.
All right. Let's see, Vice Chair O'Neill Bovacco.
Just a couple comments. I do really appreciate this. I do love it.
charts and graphs.
People who've worked with me before. I think, as Commissioner Barr said, it's a working document, it's a living document. I appreciate, the information on like reducing injuries in your safety program, like,
Yeah.
that's, like, to me, that's big, because those are our human resources, those are our people, those are our coworkers. So I think stuff like those kind of metrics to me are really valuable. And then, of course, there's always like, well, what can we do more? What happened with those 7 who were injured?
Right.
And the increasing engagement with underrepresented constituents, I see that the city, that this commission in particular, that the staff has really worked hard. Thank you to Mr. Goulding for a lot of his work on this. I think there's so much more. There's so many issues that I don't think we can even fathom that we don't understand, because we put information out. I don't know where there's a feedback loop to actually solicit information from some of the new Americans. Like, what are they interested in knowing? I mean, what impacts them, right? We think about the sidewalk in front of my house it's broken. I think, oh, the city's not doing anything. I don't know what those kind of pressure points are for some of our new Americans in particular, and relationship with public institutions is very different in other cultures than it is in the United States. So there's a lot. I think continuing to move forward and recognize that we're going to have to retool is going to be important, instead of saying we've kind of clicked these boxes. So,
Right.
General statement. The coordination with private projects, I think that's great. There's so many I'm dealing with. It's not a private project, it's a city project, having our water lines relined, but the recognition that anytime there's infrastructure work, how the public sees it and how Public Works presents it, it's not a Public Works problem or an issue, but the public sees someone wearing flash yellow and a construction vehicle, and it's Public Works, and why are they doing this, where's the tax money, blah, blah, blah. I think recognizing, as you do here, that there needs to be good communication and coordination on some of those issues and projects that intersect with our public infrastructure. So good. The solid waste and soil management facilities, I know this is just the facility. I will say, I would love to, again, see if there's any way we can look for consolidated waste management. I live on a small cul-de-sac, and there are 6 heavy-duty trucks that come down. This impacts our air quality. Those things are high polluting. They are slow moving, so they're spewing diesel emissions right by where people live. And you have 6 different heavy-duty trucks moving on our streets, right? So I know that you know that, and I know that this is a bigger issue than this commission,
Right.
but I feel like there are lots of things in our guiding plans, like the Net Zero Energy Plan, that can help bolster some of the arguments that the city needs to make on consolidated waste collection.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's it. I think this is great, and those are, I think, my talking points for now. So thank you.
All right. Skip over and come back. Commissioner Damiani.
Yeah, I really appreciate particularly the metrics column, especially ones where we can't easily put a number to that. I think I know that a lot of metrics are included in the various different agenda items that we see month to month.
Right.
But I think it'd be really helpful for, I know there's the open data portal, there's these particular metrics that are in here, but to see
Right.
the actual numbers behind this year over year, whether it's this meeting annually or the meeting before, where we're talking about the reviews of the different department heads, I think it'd be helpful to have that all consolidated in one place.
Yeah.
2 other sort of more overarching topics that I don't know how they fit into the overall document, but one is I'm a really big proponent of demonstration projects. I know they take a lot of staff time, and in whatever way we can do them, whether it's really small versions of that for projects that will be adopting regulations moving forward, I think that's really helpful. And then the last piece is also around data, but just in the sort of year so far being on the commission, there's been, I don't want to say a distrust of data from the public, but it seems like the public has been questioning a lot of the data that's come out of the department. It all seems perfectly fine to me looking at it, but I don't know how we sort of get over that that roadblock that I think can stymie some progress for the department.
Right.
That's all I have. Thank you.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you. Commissioner Matano.
Yeah, I'm going to piggyback and talk about the data part a little bit more, and specifically regarding this enterprise asset management program.
Yep.
Will any of the data available through that, more specifically the metrics that you discussed in item 6, the number of potholes, sewer mishaps, breaks, is there any time that that data will be integrated through the data.burlington.gov portal so the public can have more complete access to these numbers and really get an idea of what kind of data DPW is actually collecting and how these sorts of mishaps are actually handled across the city?
Yes. You raised a great point. Some of this data is easier to bring forward, and we are already easily capturing it. Water main breaks, pothole requests are all things easily extracted from our tools. There are other pieces that we are still working to kind of build the back end of the enterprise asset management tool to kind of capture and then be able to efficiently pull out. So I think what I'm hearing from two of the commissioners here is, maybe more of a big picture kind of metrics, agenda items at future commission meetings where we can delve into trend data and see where we are moving the needle and where we haven't been able to move the needle. And I think, that's a helpful way that we can elevate issues where we either need more resource or different policy to kind of enable us to move the needle.
Yeah, without a doubt. It's kind of the kind of things that you guys get phone calls about, I think is really the key. Like, how are people perceiving the work that DPW is doing? And is it uniform throughout the city? Or are there really places that people feel like, man, this pothole has not been taken care of, yet when I go over to this part of town, it's kind of just that perception.
Right.
Whether or not the data actually corresponds with that might be a different story. But at least meeting and kind of discussing, well, this is where we're at now. What can, how can we explain these perceptions and really the numbers that we actually do have? So, yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Commissioner Overby.
I have first a question and then I have a suggestion. How do you use this yourself in a, on a day-to-day, whatever, month-to-month basis? How do you use this document?
I would say for myself and the leadership team, we meet usually every other week, and it helps me focus on where we need to be allocating our resource and problem-solving efforts. I think, taking an example out of this, the enterprise asset management efforts, I am able to work with the Asset Management Steering Committee to say, okay, here's the feedback we've gotten from the commission, here's the data that I need as a manager of our department to be able to make sure that we're delivering on our promise to residents. So I would say that this document that I have developed with you all over the last several years has been more of a leadership team to commission document. It is not a full-bore strategic planning effort that involves the entire staff of the organization, but it helps the leadership team identify our priorities, figure out where we need to invest more, and where we need to gatekeep and say we can't do this because we've already committed to X, Y, and Z.
So do you like go through the list every month, just so that you do a quick check-in on how status on each of those every month, or how do you?
I do. My leadership team, I would say that this is not something that's directly brought to our regular leadership team meetings, but this is something I definitely continue to check in on. And then when specific issues arise, when we refer to this and say, is it consistent with our plan for the year?
Yeah, but it sounds like it's a lot to help the commission understand the breadth of the work that's going on and sort of a little bit of an idea.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, because it's important to have things like this, because you'll forget. So I wasn't sure how you were using it. It sounds like it's not exactly, you probably have other documents that you use that you run through your checklist of things that you're dealing with on a regular basis. The suggestion, one of the things that has concerned me about this document every time I've seen it is under the status column, you have the metrics, which, like the one that I have some, concern about and interest in, is the professional development
Yeah.
percentages of people that are taking courses and internal hiring.
Yeah.
In the column under the status, it would seem like you would want to have that be a status as of a certain date. So if you have a metric that says percent of staff participating in professional development each year, percentage of positions that are filled internally, that status column, it would be helpful if that was actually a number. So your metric is telling you what the numbers are going to be, but the way you figure it out in an objective way.
Yeah.
But I just have felt like it feels very squishy to me without those numbers that are the metric that you've defined. I don't know, continued progress is
Yeah.
what seems to show. I know this is not something that your day-to-day work is, but it would be, to me, the metric, you've already done the work.
Yes.
What are those numbers, and then put them in that column, and it would have to have a date. It wouldn't say FY24 status. It would actually be as of today, or whatever, a date range or something like that. How many staff did professional development, so.
Right.
That would be my suggestion on the.
We agree. There's areas where we wish we had more capacity, for recordable injuries. We've had 11 recordable injuries last 3 years. We were down to 7 this last year. Those are easy things to count. Some of the pieces like potholes reported are easy. We're still working to develop a metric to kind of be able to generate the report on how many people have taken professional development. We're working on it.
Right.
We're not there yet. We don't have a data expert full-time in-house or even part-time in-house, so we're still building that ship. But I think I share your goal.
I would just add a few things. One is, there's professional development where licensure and certifications require you to have 30 professional development hours on a 2-year cycle. Do we record and report every individual who's got a license and how many hours they've completed any given milestone or specific date? No. We could probably try to begin to assemble that, but there's also the safety training that goes with each and every position within the department that has gone through kind of a transition from HSI to now NeoGov in that platform, and it's now all electronic online training for safety at least. So I think there's probably an ability to be able to capture some of that data or metrics from there, but the professional development hours are really kind of individuals who participate on a cycle. For instance, for me, I have to do 30 hours every year, and whether I like it or not, I tend to kind of jam that last year of renewal doing the 30 hours over probably a 4-month period, because I just simply don't have that focus throughout the year to kind of complete those tasks. And trust me, I'd rather have it spread over time than sit through training intensely for some 3-4 month period. It's a challenge, but there is a lot going on with the department. When you look at this list, these are things that we kind of work on a daily basis and kind of our heart and soul, and this kind of really frames kind of where we're driving to. But that doesn't mean every one of these items is our primary focus every day. It comes and goes seasonally, and so it's this is explaining kind of our culture and our thinking, so you understand kind of the depth of where we're at and what we're trying to do, and then you can either validate that or question that or challenge that. But it's not a bad idea to try to build further the metrics that support, substantiate really what we're doing, because there's a lot going on.
I would just say if the metric is really not easy to do, because it's just really a lot of busy work,
For
I
some
wouldn't use
things.
that as I wouldn't use that as a metric. I would use something that you can actually do that's beneficial to you as well. So it's not like busy work to make
Right,
it for
right,
the
yeah.
commission to have that number. But, you know, so don't put I wouldn't have a metric that it was so much work that it's like, it's never gonna happen. And, you know, you know what I'm saying? I'm just trying to, because that's how you know that you're making progress, and that's how the commission could know that you're making progress instead of continued progress,
Mhm.
work in progress. It doesn't really have any substance.
doesn't have
Even
Yeah.
though you're very clear about what you think is a way to tell that
Yeah.
you're making progress, you know.
Yeah.
But, you know what I'm saying? That's all I'm getting at. So
Some of
I
the
wouldn't
things in terms of asset
make it-
management is we're in this infancy of developing systems that then need to be pushed through down into the culture of the workers doing the work in the field. And how do you automate those systems? How do you make it so that it's not a burden, but is actually useful information that could feed back into how well we're doing or not doing?
Well, you absolutely have to have the people that are made to do the busy work to get the numbers for the metrics,
Mhm.
that get benefit out of it. And a lot of times there isn't any, so it's just work, it's not helpful, and so, you know, you clearly are trying to come up with something that tells you that you're making progress with the asset management. So maybe it's like something like,
Yeah.
you know, six assets that are fleshed out into a certain structure in the system every 6 months or every year. You know, that's a metric that you
Right.
can go, did we do it or did we not?
So
And
like as an example,
Yeah.
our paving and our sidewalk activity is an important metric. Our ability to understand how bad the roads are with potholes is an important metric. Some of what we're trying to focus on is not just what we have for money and how far it will go, but also kind of having a sense and feel of how bad the potholes are in the city. And we spent the last 2 or 3 weeks inventorying that, and my hope is from it, I'll know where the first priorities are with the investment that we have available to us, which we all know that if I'm spending money on potholes, I'm not spending money on real proactive work. That's a reactive response. And as we go further into the circumstance of less funding availability because of the capital funding challenges, it's gonna be really important that we know and understand where our highest and best investment is. And so we're trying to spend a lot of time understanding what's the consequence of these different scenarios and where can we make the best use of that money. And it's not easy when you're spending a lot of that time kind of circling around what can you do and what is the highest priority when you know there's a lot to do.
Well,
So
and
it's-
how do you know whether you have actually been successful in finding the best use of the money?
Right. Well, it's a judgment call, but
Right.
the public will give us that feedback.
Right, but that's how you define that's where you set your metric. What
Right.
is it that is gonna tell you that you've succeeded in, you know, best use of the money? Anyway, those are my, again, that.
In my opinion, our success is the serviceability of those facilities. You know, the roads are rideable, the sidewalks are walkable. That is,
Right.
and that's a varying degree of success based on the limited resource we have available.
Right. And some people would say that the roads, you know, some people would think the roads are not rideable because their neighborhood they aren't, and somebody
Right.
would, so it's really, again, it's
Right.
an objective piece of thing. I don't want you to be making extra work for yourself. I want you to make, you know, I'd like to see
See it-
metrics that actually truly are beneficial to the staff in each, that are dealing with trying to meet these goals.
Yeah.
That's really where I'm
Yeah,
where I'm going with
I don't
this.
see it as busy work. I think it adds value and it justifies what we're trying to, how we're trying to do it.
Yeah, yeah, all right,
Okay.
Yep.
thanks.
All right, thank you. As former Commissioner Gilman eloquently say, you can't improve it if you can't measure it.
Mhm.
And I really agree with what my fellow commissioners have been touching on here with their ability to measure things. That's where I didn't put them up to it, but it's been
Yeah.
front of mind for me for a while now as we look down this list, to Commissioner Overby's points. We here's a metric, we're like, we don't know what the staff percentage is, we don't know what this is. And I guess, towards that, I'll say, for the things that are easy to get our hands on,
Yeah.
can we start putting those out there, like, you know, I would argue to not wait till we have all 22 of these, like, nailed and had an automated data flow to populate the DPW performance dashboard of our dreams, right? Or like the, sort of, go for some easy wins on the thing. I mean, even like the thing that I look at occasionally are the crash injuries, say. It's a bit of a pain to get the right filters on the V-Trans website and things, but like that stuff should be sort of front and center, like how many people have been hurt this month on our roads?
That, as an example, has been challenging to get that information from the police. And the state, the city's police records are different than the state records, and how detailed the state records are very, my understanding is the state accident records are very generalized and not actionable. So we really try to dial into what is the city's police reports, and some of those are even not actionable, but at least they're what we have. It's better than anything else.
Yeah.
And we're working on that with Dayton, who's trying to work with police liaison for that data. So there is work happening there.
Okay,
Yep.
glad to hear it.
We'll bring you the data next month. We're hearing it loud and clear, no problem. We've got PCI, we've got sidewalk condition index citywide, we've got crash data citywide. We'll bring it. It's important, and I agree. I think it's really good feedback, and we're excited that you're excited to have that data.
Yeah, it's just not sitting in this document.
Yeah, we'll bring it.
Towards the end, on the sidewalk, sort of condition and work around the city, mentioned in a previous meeting that there was an inquiry from Councilor Grant as to how sort of sidewalk improvements have been doing around there.
Yeah.
Is that, have you closed the loop on that with the councilor?
Yeah. We are working on that data request, and we'll certainly share it with the commission as soon as we have that. We can bring forward the citywide condition index item, and I'm not sure where your team is on doing the equity split, but we'll bring that when we have it.
My understanding is it's in there, but it's a lot of buried math. And there's a lot of measures that are in there that does that calculation. And, I mean, we can open the mathematical books on that, but we are very cautious about that because I don't want individual council members to manipulate that process to their own individual ward interests.
Sure. I don't think the commission's asking to open up the numbers. All we're doing is we're doing an equity analysis. We'll bring that to you in the coming months once it's done.
Right.
And sort of keep an eye out for future you as you're doing that, and think about ways that you could make it
Yeah.
easier for the next go-around.
Right.
Really, a lot of the things that I automate in my
Yes.
day job are driven from laziness. Like, I don't know,
Yeah.
I get sick of like doing the same thing. Let me just get this thing to report itself.
Absolutely.
I'd suggest you get with Mr. Goulding and our friends in the city planning analyst team, and sort of figure out a way to sort of have
Yeah.
that information rise to the top.
Me too. Let's do it.
What's the story of the city TDM study? Is that a thing? It's mentioned in number 16. Wondering sort of
Yes.
where that lives. Is that a
It lives in the
thing we're
office,
doing, or
Office of City Planning. Norm's team is involved in that study. It was a council-requested study under a past council. And the evaluation is to understand how our transportation policy will interact with our permitting systems and what requirements we will put in place with development. And we can certainly share the scope of work that the Office of City Planning is developing, if there's interest.
Okay.
Yeah,
Great, yeah, there's a lot here, and I appreciate you
yeah,
putting this out for our read, and certainly
Yeah.
look forward to it. I know this is not the end of the conversation. Look forward to digging in all this. I guess one
Yeah.
related thing, like, we've got 22 things here, is a lot, and I know that the, whatever the crisis du jour is.
Sure.
We'll overtake your plan for
Yeah.
what our priority is this week and next week, et cetera. But do you have a sense, like, within these 22 are some, things you revisit every sort of week as your guiding document, or something you're just like,
Right.
I know they're all important, but are some more
Speak
important?
for what has been my primary focus of the year term.
Okay.
That helps. So.
Sure, is there like a seasonal flow of when you're,
So as an example,
Viewing
so
lost time
Commissioner
injuries or-
Valanco mentioned the idea of, we have projects and how they affect the public. You know, we're building and rebuilding things that are disruptive to daily lives of the public. As an example, the parkway is being built. In that construction of that parkway, it clearly has impacts to businesses, and there needs to be a dialogue with those businesses before things happen so that people aren't surprised. And we've been very laser focused on that. And one of the things that I've been doing on a weekly basis is being with the city market, because they are four corners disrupted by the parkway itself. And so we are sensitive to that issue. We have public information people who work on that. We have Corey who works, and Ken who works very hard at communicating with the public who's got concerns or expressed concerns. There is a lot of full court press work to manage a contractor who wants to make significant progress quickly, and we are at the front line saying, wait a minute, let's make sure the public knows and understands what's next so that they can get on with their lives and not be fully disrupted. So we are building things, but we're also controlling and tempering and managing that effort so it doesn't completely damage people permanently. And I think that's an important part to any of these projects, and we make that point very clear at the front end with our REs, our contractors, and we hope the public sees and understands that. So that's an example. Staff. It's important that we think very thoughtful about how we train and prepare our personnel and staff to do this work. Some things that I've done in the past, I'm now handing to other staff who are less senior, who are learning and growing and being mentored in that process of doing that work. So there's a lot of that going on. We have interns. Interns are doing great work, but they're here also to learn, and we want them to learn the things that we do on a daily basis so that they can, in their careers, have the experience, have the knowledge, and leave this place not just with a means of income, but also a base of knowledge. So learning is really important to my team.
yeah, okay, well, thank you for that.
Yep.
I'm getting the sense that, I have over the years, that the number 10, advancing high priority capital project, while one of 22 here might be 75% of your attention, and
Right.
Yeah.
given
Possibly.
what-
It
I
can
think
be.
if you're asking what do I focus on as director, clearly the division-wide objectives are things that I need to make sure that are orchestrated among the team to have success. So that's where I spend a lot of my time.
Thanks. All right,
Chair Hogan,
Yeah.
could I,
please.
yeah, make a comment or ask a question? I guess the items we previously voted on, around parking revenue and the bond has me thinking about like the department's sort of financial planning and budget, and I guess I'm curious as to why, there are obviously like goal 22 is around cost allocation and stuff like that, but I'm wondering if it might be useful to sort of have a high level like financial goal or something for the department, or if you want to just sort of speak to it, I think that would be.
Right. Yes, that's a great comment, and I think given that the commission necessarily doesn't have kind of de facto authority over financials, it probably wasn't as explicit here. I mean,
Okay.
there needs to be a North Star of us achieving our budgeted objectives year over year. The general fund as main drivers of revenue that fluctuate significantly is the amount of billable work Norm's team can do. How many grants can we bring in and bill other people for the engineers? The other area of general fund revenue that fluctuates significantly is fine revenue. Fine revenue for the general fund. And then how much street maintenance can do in building sidewalk catch basins, because they actually are an in-house contractor. So we are having to manage on the general fund kind of the three main activity centers to make sure we're billing enough, we're constructing enough, and we're getting enough fine money in to keep the general fund whole. But if there's interest in understanding kind of our financial management, I'm happy to pull those numbers out and look at trend data with you all.
So, if I could speak to that a little bit. So as Chapin noted, my team does a significant amount of billing to grant projects. So that means that the staff that we have, which is pretty expansive, though it's a fairly heavily consumed team, I have a table that shows precisely what projects I have and who's being assigned to it and what percentage they're assigning their work to, what is billable, non-billable. And that is our driving force, where we use click time to enter our time to make it billable and justified with our grant projects. So we get a considerable amount of other people's money to support this team, but it provides technical staff resource the city normally wouldn't have available to them. And along with that, we manage capital projects. Well, capital projects, there's significant dollars and cents that go through our hands. The Parkway is an example, $41 million project. We're processing and paying all those bills. And this means that there's got to be a firm process of management here. And that is where we have contract authorizations, we have purchase orders, we have pay requisitions. We know precisely transactionally where each project is at any given time, because each pay rec I require my staff to submit the spreadsheet that accounts for all those expenses. So we know financially where we are, probably better than even the accounting system on a timely basis. So this is number one important to me, that we are managing these monies well and that we can answer any question that comes up that comes through audit. So we have a process where, for instance, execution of contracts flow through me, then flow through Chapin. I'm explaining precisely where we are with the authorization with council. He sees that in my communications to him, and then he executes those contracts. So there is a two-person turn the key before things happen. So there's a lot of financial review and time spent within my team and with Chapin to make sure things are going well and we're on solid ground wherever we decide what action we're taking, especially for major projects where there's a lot of money in play.
Yeah, thanks.
Yep.
All right, thank you. Anything else from the commission? We have a Warren's public comment item here. Can we check on the phones? Mr. Goldman, please.
No one online at this time.
All right. Quiet night. Right, so there's no action requested on this one. I'll say at a minimum, I think. Sentiment is we're very appreciative that you all put this in front of us and give us a chance to look through it and read on it. And
Yeah.
things that we can reflect on and ask and learn more about as the year goes.
Appreciate your interest in metrics. This is going to be I'm excited about the coming year and the opportunity to kind of work through what we have and get your feedback, both in terms of where we're falling short, where we're succeeding, but also, more importantly, where we can work to improve our metrics. Some things are not easy to capture, but we'd like to tell the story better.
For sure.
Yeah.
Anything else from the fellow commissioners' end? Is there a really burning need to make a motion, or leave it as Warren's with nothing but our appreciation for talking through it?
Yeah.
Right?
I'm good.
Okay, with that, I will close item 7 and move forward to item 8 on our agenda, the director's reports.
All right. Division Director Jeff Paget has put in your materials the notice about the July 3rd special rate. And I don't believe it made it in the packet, but we will be sending to you a notice to the commission about 50% off in the downtown garage on Saturdays in the summer. Same type of promotion we did last year. The garage is still way underutilized, so trying to launch some sort of promotion that gives us a special message to encourage people to find the garage. And thanks to Mr. Goulding and Mr. Paget, they've launched an ad campaign that you can see in the director's report as well about the downtown garage. That is being distributed internationally in Montreal as well as other area drive markets. There's been a lot happening, as you can see in the director's report. I won't go over the detail, and actually, given that it's a lovely day outside, I'll keep it short. Mr. Baldwin, anything to add?
I would just note that there is continuing movement with the Parkway, and I don't know if you understood, but in previous conversations, but the litigation has subsided for the time being with the Parkway, and work is continuing to advance, and you're going to see a considerable amount of activity now moving from what is the new segments of the Parkway to Lakeside Avenue and Pine Street. So as a matter of fact, this coming Monday, Tuesday, we'll be pulling rail out of on the west side of Pine Street along that corridor to begin the process of constructing the Parkway, so on Pine Street. So there'll be stuff happening, and it will be disruptive, but we're trying to best manage that. And Lakeside Avenue is going to be undergrounding. This will probably be 3 weeks of alternating one lane of traffic for 2 lanes of flow, and then followed by a full closure that will detour through Sears Lane. So I guess I'm bringing this up so you're not surprised by any calls you may get from the public. Obviously, as disruptive as that is, you should know first that it's coming, and that if you have questions, feel free to either call me or Corey. We can brief you on anything that goes our way or your way. And there is, on a weekly basis, there is the project updates that are on the project website, ChamplainParkway.com. You're welcome to check there as well. But feel free to call either of us.
Thank you. Mr. Goulding, anything to add?
Nothing at this time.
All right. Great.
All right.
Thank you.
With that, I will move forward to item 9 on our agenda, Commissioner Communications. Let's start with Commissioner McDaniel.
Oh, yeah. My question is about the potholes. You mentioned that there was some kind of assessment going on in the last couple weeks, and I'm wondering what the conclusions of that was and sort of where the priorities are going to be going forward to do something about them.
Yeah, so I've not actually seen the inventory as yet. I'm going to be scheduling time next week to go through that with staff who've been doing that inventory throughout the whole entire city. So it will tell us how many square feet of potholes or bad potholes that need to be fixed. When I talk about potholes, our focus is really those areas where you have clusters of potholes together that have been patched and repatched, and it's just a mess in one particular spot. You can have an isolated pothole that our right-of-way team can fix, but when you have a series of potholes all next to each other and patched and repaired a number of times, our focus is how can we get those ground out as a small paving operation and get it repaved such that it gets us through to the next year or two to where we do more proactive full street redevelopment. And mind you, some streets don't really necessarily need full street redevelopment. They just need that particular focus on that one area that is ungodly bad for serviceability. And will it survive another winter's season is the question mark. But we only have so much money, and how much money do we put towards this small operation patching versus real solutions in terms of repaving the road. This is the balancing act we have. We are not fond of the idea of spending a significant amount of money on patching because it's just a stopgap measure, not a real proactive solution. But if that's what we have to do because that's our financial limitations, then that's the choice we're gonna have to make.
Are there particular things you'd like to know or issues or hotspots you want to let us know about?
Yeah, if you have things in mind.
Lower Church Street as one particular spot, but I could,
Sure.
yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Well, I will look and make sure it's on that list then.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And are you going to be coming back, now that, well, I guess a couple of commissioners did bring up the data aspect?
Yeah.
Is that something that we could look forward to in a future meeting?
Yep.
Fantastic.
We'll work with the chair to figure out when it's best coordinated. We'll talk about our summer meeting schedule here momentarily. It may be that we'll want to wait till the fall when we're all out of summer mode, but we'll coordinate that for a approximate meeting.
I don't think it's exceptionally critical, but if we are going to be doing any sort of data-driven analysis, splitting it up maybe into like 3 or 4 sections, but
Yeah.
including a South End, New North End, and then Old North End downtown court, since that seems to be where the big division in between people's perceptions about the quality of the infrastructure might be, and it would be interesting to see if that really comes out in the data or not.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Damiani.
I have no communications for this
All right.
evening.
Skipping over to Commissioner Fox.
Okay, first I will sort of echo Engineer Baldwin's comments around sort of like interacting with the Champlain Parkway website and signing up for their emails. And if you have a question, responding right to those emails. They are very responsive. I sent an email on a Friday afternoon, and I got a phone call back the same afternoon. So I think sort of that public relations aspect of it is, at least from my experience of it, has worked well. So I think, it's a good resource for people to be aware of. The other thing, I would be remiss not to bring up North or South Union and Pearl intersection where we had those nice little bollards for like 24 hours at the bike lane, and like after a day they were gone because clearly a car or a driver had hit them, run over them. Bollards were destroyed, and
South Union and which?
And
street?
Pearl.
Pearl.
yeah. So yeah, I think a lot of us optimists were like super excited to see that there's something, right?
Mhm.
And then I like rode through it and I was like, wow, that's new, like that's exciting, there's something there. And then like an hour later it was gone. So yeah, I just, like I said, I'd be sort of remiss not to bring it up.
Mhm.
And sort of just to reiterate that we need something that cars can't run over if we want to protect people who are cycling. I mean, it seems like even like a taller plastic thing might help. Just like I'm thinking of the pedestrian signs that like people are really good, well, not really good, I shouldn't make that generalization, but I feel like people are good about sort of avoiding those and that sort of thing, and it seems like it's sort of a similar like base perhaps, and so yeah, I don't know if there are sort of creative ways that we can,
Mhm.
I don't know.
I would just note in that case, there's been some internal conversation about what the solution is.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, because it's so tight, we believe that people aren't willfully hitting them. It's such a tight space to accommodate the bike lane that they're just getting hit. And one of the solutions that we'd love to have, but is not within our financial reach, is really to move poles and move curb and to make it a full success. And we talk about quick builds. Well, we'd love doing quick builds, but quick builds shouldn't be a long-term solution to those facilities. They need to be more permanently constructed, and that really takes, unfortunately, money, significant amounts of money, to be able to make those things be pulled off successfully. And we are constantly looking for different technologies like you're talking about that find a way of being successful, but it's been tough.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear you.
Yep.
And that's what Norm's team's is seeking to get constructed on North Champlain Street, which is a more durable, separated facility. We just put it out to bid and it came back too high, so we're adjusting the design a bit. But we are looking at things that are more durable than what we've tried to put out and have not succeeded.
Yeah,
So,
we keep
Yeah.
looking.
Okay. I guess sort of along those lines, and this is, I guess, more out of curiosity, but what was sort of the rationale behind putting just like the temporary bollards there just at that intersection? I mean, I'm not criticizing it at all, but, you know, it was maybe, 6 feet of protected,
I don't know all the particulars of it.
Okay.
It's the first I've heard that it was put up and struck. I know that it's been a damaged, blighted mess, and particularly as you come out of winter into spring.
Yeah.
And so I'll find out more now that you've raised the issue.
Okay. Cool. And then last thing, restriping, of all the roads and all that is nice. Love to see it. The one area I'm concerned about is North Ave and Sherman Street, where it curves around by the police station. It seems to me, as someone who drives through there and bikes through there, like heading north frequently,
Right.
that the center line is not completely like curved all the way, and so it's kind of shooting the northbound traffic like straight. And the bike lane also sort of has this weird double stripe that sort of like goes in and then back out again. It just looks really weird, and it's really confusing as a roadway user.
okay,
So, I don't know,
yeah.
just take a look at it, because it feels like it's sort of the way the angles are working are not how it's supposed to be. And at one point it's so narrow that like there's no way that's what the standard is for a car to like be there, just
Mhm.
because like there's a double lane for the bike lane, and then the center stripe is sort of like this, and it's just,
Okay.
it seems off to me.
I would acknowledge that whoever's doing the contracting is not have good quality control.
Okay.
And I've seen some of it around the city, and I kind of shrug and shake my head, and like, once it's down, it's down.
Yeah.
But, there's other examples on Upper Pine Street where, for whatever reason, the center line curved, and I'm just like, there's gotta be more line striping contractors in this state to kind of avoid those types of quality control issues, because there needs to be a more competitive market.
Okay.
That's kind of the bottom line in my mind.
Okay.
I don't
We'll take a
necessarily
look at
directly
it.
manage them, but
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe it's a next spring thing
we'll take a look
If-
closely at it and see
Yeah.
if it's really kind of a hazard that needs to be modified.
Right,
Okay.
if it's a hazard, we'll attend to it this year.
Okay, cool, that's it. Thanks.
Thank you. Commissioner Barr?
I often wondered if the striper was swerving to miss an animal there. It
Something.
just
I
went
don't know what
around,
happened.
because it did look kind of weird. Just a couple of comments. One is, I got a chance to meet the new Public Works Transportation Planner, Dayton Kreitz. Met him a few times. He's come over to our neighborhood, and it's an exciting time with the bridge reconstruction, with the intersection of Barrett, Riverside, and Colchester reconstruction, with hopefully some money coming in. I'm still buying lottery tickets for it, to get the Colchester Avenue corridor done. It's just a great time, and he's been very engaging. I just wanted to put a plug in that he's come in, he's set up a table when we had a block party, and a bunch of people came over and started putting dots where things that he wanted to do. And so it's good for him because the engagement for Public Works happens. It's good for us because we get to see everything. So I'd
Right.
really like to see a lot more of that as we can.
Great.
But other than that, I'm excited. It's solstice, summer solstice today.
Yeah.
All right.
Right.
Vice Chair O'Neill Bavaco?
All right, I think with probably 98% of the stuff that you do, it's really like trying to change the tires on the bus as you're flying down the freeway. So totally sympathetic to.
Safely.
It's safer. It's safer. But recognizing, we're asking for data points, and I hope, certainly at least from my point of view, that any of this information I ask is not to create more work for the sake of creating more work, but really to communicate all the work that the city is doing, that this department is doing. and the thing about the striping is Jane Public doesn't differentiate between the contractor and Public Works,
Oh, I know.
right?
Mhm.
Yep.
So maybe Jim and I will go into business and we'll start striping roads here. I don't know.
I could do a spray can.
The communication on projects, because this hit home, and maybe I had the hotline to Mr. Goulding. I'm not even looking at you, Rob. I'm sorry. But the contractor for the relining of the water lines has been fantastic. Really, they are fantastic. We had a little bit of a communication issue between parking enforcement on our street with, while the contractors are there. But Jeff came up with a solution for that.
Right.
Really, this has been great. Those folks are, they're doing brain surgery while someone's moving around. Because, and you talked about the Champlain Parkway, the balance between trying to have the workers work efficiently and effectively while managing the disruption with the public. And the fact that we've been able to, A, I have water, and B, I can get in and out of my house at least once a day. And that they're kind, they're engaging. We walk and bike mostly, so we interact with these folks several times a day. So kudos to this team and to the water
Yeah.
system. And also recycling they only didn't pick up one day in all of this. This is going on since April. So that the city systems continue to work while we are having major surgery. So I'm grateful for that. One unrelated comment from non-voting, dependent on their parents for rides population was please pave College Street.
Oh, yeah, I forgot to say that's right.
Yeah. Before this, my daughter and her friends were like, can you just tell someone to pave College Street? I'm just telling you to pave College Street. Because biking up it as a 14-year-old is hard.
Yeah.
But this was literally just before I came here, so I didn't even look at the construction portal to know when College Street is going to be paved, but.
Good, we're having some server issues today.
I'll tell them it's in the queue.
I
Anyway.
suggest they just go further north, because it's not as steep.
It's not as steep, I know, for the 14-year-olds. That's all. Thanks a lot.
I get those same complaints from my wife, so.
Pave College Street? Oh, gosh.
Similar things.
I can't believe you haven't done it yet. Jeez.
All right. Sorry, maybe I'll go
Yeah.
next. I'll give Commissioner Overby the last word here. Is that-
I don't really have any comments about Public Works things, other than to say that I did not reapply to be on the commission for another 3 years. And that's not because I don't love Public Works. I do. I'm just totally into it. But over 10 years is, I think, time to give somebody else a chance to be able to sit in the seat and make comments. And I really do love Public Works, and I really love, as I've said many times, Public Works is the critical infrastructure that makes Burlington have a civilization, frankly. There would be it wouldn't be civilized if we didn't have any of the things that Public Works provides. So I've learned a lot. I'm really, really happy about how much I learned, and I hopefully have contributed things that would have been helpful and not totally annoying, and I didn't get the sheep's hook all the time. To not continue to ask questions that got lengthy. So I just want to make that announcement, and I look forward to seeing who else is here, and I will probably be sitting at the public comment desk when there are things that seem relevant for me to contribute. So, and I appreciate working with all these commissioners, and over the years, the many commissioners and the staff, and CCTV for recording these meetings, which I think is really an important thing. And Rob Goulding having come on board to help with all the public communications, which made a big difference over time, which wasn't something that was done. So that's where I'm at. I appreciate everybody putting up with my various long-winded questions, but I think they were all very relevant, and I hope they have been helpful. And I appreciate the work that everybody's been doing and will continue to do, and I'll be watching on the TV. And I won't be able to participate in all my other very busy activities. I have so much going on. This is going to be really helpful to not always have to schedule my life around Wednesday once a month. It's really been a challenge. So you guys get to continue to have those challenges. All right, that's all I have to say.
Thank
Great,
you.
yeah, thank you so
Thank you.
much for
Yeah.
these solid 11 years and all of your enthusiasm and energy. On behalf of myself as current chair and
Yes.
the commissioners that came before me.
Yes, when we finish up the meeting tonight, we have brought some special treats here and would welcome time to just hang out and enjoy each other's company. And thanks, Solveig, for 11 amazing years. Look, you know, I have never once questioned that you have been raising the tough issues in order to best serve this community. And I think you have helped us tackle the vexing policy challenges of the day, and you've made our work better. So I really appreciate all of what you've brought to the table and the thoroughness of which you've done it, and you will be missed.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well said, thank you. With that, I will close Commissioner Communications and move forward to item 10 on our agenda, adjournment and next meeting date, with the note that we ought to consider an alternate date perhaps that may work. We know that July is a challenging time. Myself to plan for much of that, as I'll be out of town for a chunk of July as well. I believe in sort of polling commissioner availability across July and staff availability as well. We're not going to catch everyone. I don't think we're going to fill all commissioner seats on any given week there. But I believe the suggestion for staff was to aim for perhaps July 26th, with the caveat that we do typically take 1 month off in the summer. If we can swing it, traditionally August, last year it was July. But I think staff's recommendation here, and one that I agree with, is to act like we're going to meet July 26th, Wednesday.
If that works for you all, yeah, City Engineer Baldwin will be here. I will be out, but there are a couple of moving targets related to Main Street, Great Streets, and a couple other timely items. So if the commission would try to make a meeting in July work, it seemed like you had a better commission attendance for the 26th, and trying to go shorter in July was just going to pinch us in terms of timing to get things ready. So that would be our preference if it works for you.
Sure. You know, knowledge that it does not work for all of us. You know, I apologize for those of us.
A quorum for that?
We would have a quorum,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
It would not be a 7-seat
Okay.
full house, though.
A 4, maybe?
And
No, I
that's
think,
the-
I think we'd be good for 6.
And that's the meeting where we
Or
would
5 or 6.
vote on chair, vice chair. So
It would be. So
Correct.
if we know people are out in advance, we can coordinate beforehand.
So whoever's not
people's
here, we
interest.
can, no, I'm just
All
kidding.
right, whoever's not here gets voted.
Uh-oh, I'm not gonna be here.
Like Chris, yay.
Congratulations in advance.
Congratulations. Who else is not gonna be here?
I can make them all, because I'm retired now.
Okay. So that's all right then, to aim for the July 26th, and we can cancel as
that.
it gets closer.
Yeah. We'll double check that the room's available, the CCTV is available, but that seems to work best for the commission and staff, and appreciate the shift in usual meeting time.
Yeah, thanks, I appreciate it on our end as well. I
Yeah.
think myself and Vice Chair Neil Vanco are both unavailable on the posted date of the
Previous.
19th, so
Yeah.
But you're good.
aim for a week after,
Yeah.
see what we can do. With that, I would welcome a motion.
So moved.
What's the motion?
More
To adjourn.
She's just gonna-
More specifically,
To adjourn.
to adjourn
I
with
know
a-
these things. I'm just-
if I've got you right, to adjourn with the
Yes.
planned next meeting of July 26th.
Yes.
Excellent. We have a motion from Commissioner Barr, thank you for that.
Seconded.
A second from Commissioner Fox. Excellent. Is there any discussion around that? Right. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, we are adjourned, 8:02.